getting up and doing it first thing in the morning, there's nothing harder than doing that, just getting in freezing cold water, and you just create this mental discipline that I think today a lot of us lack.
Yeah.
So I think that's been very important. I work out a lot, so it's great for my recovery. I used to struggle really bad with headaches. I used to get headaches 3-4 times a week, and I didn't even realize this until like a couple years later. I'm like, man, I rarely have headaches anymore. And I think that's been from just consistently cold plunging.
In today's episode, we are joined by Matt and Brie Kuiper, the husband and wife team behind Desert Plunge, a company that produces high-quality cold plunges that we love. In today's episode, we discuss the most common questions about taking ice baths and doing cold plunges, like what are the health benefits, how cold should the water be, how long do you stay in, and can I just hop in my pool during the winter? We also talk about Matt's personal journey of using ice baths to cure his crippling anxiety. Enjoy today's episode and use promo code FITFAMILY if you want a sweet discount on a cold plunge.
One of the other things we were talking about is how can we help our kids level up? We're not seeing a lot of adversity for our kids, and we know adversity makes people grow. So I just feel like it's a great tool for our kids as well, for focus. For afternoon crashes, the dopamine increase is 250%. The other thing too is we're in the CrossFit space, in the fitness space, and when we are at a show for 3 days, people come to us and they say how much better their performance was in the competition the next day from having cold plunged the day before. How does the whole world not know about this? If it's completely given me my husband and feeling like our marriage back, like we've got to scream it from the rooftops.
Hey Fit Fathers, this is your official invitation to come to our first ever conference called Fit Father, Fit Mother Live. Join us in August 2025 for 3 transformational days designed to help you overcome one of life's greatest obstacles, staying consistent and motivated with your health amidst the challenges of life. At Fit Father, Fit Mother Live, we're bringing together world-class health experts to help you become more focused, more disciplined, and take your results to the next level. Day 1 of the event focuses on mindset and mental health, because as you know, real change starts in your mind. We'll give you strategies to reduce stress and unlock greater discipline, motivation, and mental clarity. Day 2 focuses on physical health and longevity. You'll hear from top doctors and experts on the latest methods to speed up your fat loss, build muscle, enhance your longevity, and overcome obstacles like nagging injuries. Day 3 is all about the power of community and accountability. You'll make real connections with like-minded fit fathers and fit mothers who will become your friends and support you long after this event ends. We'll also have dozens of top-tier health companies on-site as vendors, showcasing the latest products, technologies, and innovations to support your health journey. This is so much more than just a conference. This event is your chance to connect with your fellow fit family, to recharge your batteries on an unbelievable wellness vacation, and take your fitness results to the next level. Don't miss out on the best fitness event of 2025. Register now at fitfatherproject.com/2025 to secure your spot today. All right, family, welcome back to another episode here on the podcast. I am so happy you're here. In today's special episode, we are going to be talking about cold plunging, and I am joined by my special guests, Matt and Brie Kuiper. They are the founders of Desert Plunge, my favorite cold plunge company, and they have a very powerful story about how cold plunging changed their lives and their families' lives and actually inspired them to start this amazing company that produces cold plunges that I recommend you check out. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about the science of cold plunging. You're going to hear some powerful stories about how cold plunging can really change your life. Certainly physical benefits, but also mental, emotional benefits. And of course, we have a special discount code as well. If you're inspired to get into cold plunging and you want to check out Desert Plunge, you can go to their website, desertplunge.com, and use promo code FITFAMILY. So, Matt, Brie, thanks for being here in studio. I think the place I want to start is actually your personal story, like how cold plunging changed your life, because I know this is something that you got into a very specific reason. So, what was going on?
Yeah, so this started back in 2019 for me. It was actually March of 2019. We were traveling out of the country and I had a panic attack on an airplane. I'd never had a panic attack before, didn't know what was going on. And from there, just kind of spiraled out of control. I figured we cut our trip home, came home. I figured I'd get back to normal, everything would be good, but it just continued to spiral out of control. It was severe insomnia, anxiety, depression. I tried everything you could think of, from medication, talk therapy, supplements, all the natural remedies you can think of, and nothing helped. There was a lot of debilitating days in there. It probably lasted for about 7 months. And then in October, I've been talking to my brother. He's like, hey, have you ever heard of this guy called Wim Hof? And Wim Hof, for those of you who don't know, is this extreme Dutch athlete who really started this whole movement of cold therapy and breath work. Started reading up on him. He was going through some similar issues. I think his wife had committed suicide, and he found cold water really helped him out of his depressed state he was in. So I was like, well, worth a shot, right? I found a local wellness center near us in Arizona, and the first day I did my cold plunge, it just snapped me out of it. It just kind of reset my brain. I was driving home that night, and that cloud, that fog that had been hovering over me just lifted. I could see the light at the end of the tunnel again. I'm like, this is amazing. From that point on, that was October, so I would drive about 45 minutes every morning to do a cold plunge, and then in the evening I'd do it in my pool. So I was doing it twice a day. I didn't miss. I did twice a day for about a year and a half. But I was sold on this. I was telling all my friends, all my buddies. COVID hit, in March in 2020. So I was like, well, I need something at home, because I just knew, I saw the writing on the wall, the center was going to shut down. So I first converted a chest freezer, and that's how I first started doing it. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be, people need more access to this. Chest freezer's not that practical, and it can be a little bit of an eyesore. So like, how do we make something more affordable, more practical, something that you can put on your back patio? And that kind of started our journey. I was making them out of stock tanks, which it worked, but they don't do great here in Arizona, especially in hotter climates. The chillers are running almost all day because they're just not well insulated. And then I had a buddy that was just filling up his Grizzly cooler with ice. He's like, hey, could you put a chiller on this for me? I'm like, sure, I'll give it a shot. And I did my first one. I'm like, man, this is genius. It's super efficient. It's affordable. It's quality. And that's how my story brought me to Desert Plunge and where we're at today. It just kind of ballooned from there. It's been about a little over 2 years now, and it's been a cool journey.
It's so cool. And I mean, I just get a little emotional thinking like you found something that legitimately gave you almost magic level relief.
Yeah.
And that's significant.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, feels like really special, like almost like purposeful to like you to bring this work into the world. So Brie, I want to ask you from your vantage point of like probably seeing your husband suffering, then this big transformation, like what was your emotional journey as you're starting this company, you're seeing Cold Plunge come into your family's life and all this?
Well, the weekend when we were in Ecuador, literally in a kayak, and he's completely like in tears, broken down, there was a side of him that I had never seen where he was like making amends for things. And it was like actually a very spiritual moment. We were in the middle of the Amazon in a kayak, and he's saying things to me that I had never heard before. And I was like, I just had a knowing that God was doing something. I'm like, I don't know what's happening here. And so it was a calling that was on, as he was, when we fast forward and we find cold plunging 7 months after that day in the Amazon in Ecuador, when he found that, it was like when we started shopping for cold plunges, he kept making this comment like, I know I can do better. This thing isn't out there that people need. I know I can do better. And it was powerful. It was a hard emotional journey to go through. It was, 7 months in, and you're saying the same thing to your spouse and things aren't changing. It was a mental, spiritual, emotional battle. And so then for him to find that, it was like, wow, it's cold water. What a concept, So I can't explain just the hope and it's like, how does the whole world not know about this? If it's completely given me my husband and feeling like our marriage back, we've got to scream it from the rooftops, you know what I mean? And so, But it was like we couldn't quite figure out that way to get it to people until we struck this partnership with Grizzly and found this amazing design. And the way that it happened was just, it's just been organic, one foot in front of the other. There's tons of details that, of course, I'm not sharing here, or able to have time to share, but it's been wild. And I will say, right when we were ready to jump off that cliff and just go all in with Desert Plunge, I panicked. And I was like, can you just not, can you stay where it's safe? And, and that's when you were like, you know what, I really feel called to go all in on this. Cause it's like, we've had times where I'm encouraging him to go all in, and then I get scared, and when he's ready to go all in, it's scary, so, but I know that we've both felt really strongly about it at different times. It's not always at the same time, but it's been a pretty cool journey. Yeah.
I sense like a metaphor in there, like to really live means we need to follow this heart's call and step out through the fear into the unknown. And it's uncomfortable, but we know it's good for us. Yeah. And that is like literally the same thing as a cold plunge. Yeah, totally. It's like, I know this is good for me. This is massively uncomfortable. I'm gonna step into this. So it's like, it's so cool that like the cold plunge is a microcosm of this more macrocosmic journey you're on. And that's why I think it's like a spiritual practice truly, because you're accessing these deeper parts of yourself. And it's obviously primal. I mean, it rewired your nervous system. So Matt, I'll ask you, like, why do you cold plunge today? Like 5 years or so later, like what are the things that you would tell somebody who's interested in this? Like what are the big benefits and reasons today for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a great tool. I mean, because obviously while it kind of reset my brain, got me back on track, I still struggle from time to time. So it's something for me personally that I use as a tool to help me kind of manage my anxiety, particularly my anxiety I still struggle with. So that really helps me. It's a great tool to have. It also just helps me. I feel like I'm a very disciplined person, but this magnifies it times 10 by helping just force you to stay disciplined, keep structure in your life. Getting up, especially if you do it in the morning, getting up and doing it first thing in the morning, there's nothing harder than doing that, just getting in freezing cold water, and you just create this mental discipline that I think today a lot of us lack.
Yeah.
So I think that's been very important. I work out a lot, so it's great for my recovery.
Yep.
There's been a lot of benefits, just like I used to struggle really bad with headaches. I used to get headaches 3-4 times a week. And I didn't even realize this until like a couple years later. I'm like, man, I rarely have headaches anymore. And I think that's been from just consistently cold plunging. So I continue to do it because it's hard and I like doing hard things. I think there's a lot to that. Just getting up every day and doing something hard, you receive a lot of benefits from that alone, but just, the physical side of it, benefits you get from it, just the mental health benefits. So that's why I continue to do it.
Same question to you, Brie. What benefits do you see personally from the cold plunge?
Well, what I see is just like one of the other things we were talking about is how can we help our kids level up? We're not seeing a lot of adversity for our kids, and we know adversity makes people grow. So I just feel like it's a great tool for our kids as well. Like I was saying earlier, for focus, for afternoon crashes, the dopamine increase is 250%. But like you had mentioned, that's like, it's more than cocaine, but it lasts 4 hours plus, which you don't, so it's a very significant energy increase. The other thing too is we're in the CrossFit space, in the fitness space, and when we are at a show for 3 days, people come to us and they say how much better their performance was in the competition the next day from having cold plunged the day before. And so it's just, while we came into it for the mental piece, we're seeing so much more, even in even recovery, whether it's from alcoholism or drug addiction. That's, I feel like, just newly breaking into that space of how powerful it can be for people that are just overcoming adversity. It's really overcoming adversity, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, and you've seen people have spiritual experiences in the cold water. So it's just, it's stepping into adversity rather than running from, because we never escape it. So when we step into it, whatever our own battle is at that time, like the cold water meets us in that way that we need it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I got chills as you said that. And I think that's like the antidote to our sick modern culture, where we've traded adversity for short-term pleasure that creates long-term pain.
Yeah.
Cold plunge is short-term pain
Yes.
for long-term pleasure. It's like the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
So and it only takes a few minutes. So it's like this daily remedy, a prayer, if you will, for that. I know the benefits I get. Well, the reason I plunge daily is for the energy and mental clarity, first and foremost. I mean, there's physical benefits, right? Increases brown fat, which boosts your metabolism, you lose more fat. I feel like when I plunged, I got leaner. But for me, it's just like, I feel so fantastic. So I use it instead of like, I used to rely on caffeine. Like, let me just take another coffee. It's actually, no, let me just cold plunge. And that's the benefit of having access to cold water. And I can see like a home of the future would have a cold plunge. It would have access to some kind of warm through like a sauna of some sort. It would have the right kind of biocompatible lights. And it's cool because it's like this feng shui idea. We're almost getting all these elements, earth, air, water, fire, and we're just starting to incorporate them into our lives. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so talk to me about like what it's like running the company as a husband-wife team. I think that's kind of a fun thing. You know, it's a privilege to be with you, and I'm sure it's a big dance to like have your relationship in your marriage and parenting and running a company together. So like, what's it like behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely pros and cons to that. You know, it's fun working with Brie. We complement each other really, really well. You know, if it wasn't for Brie, I'd probably sold 10 plunges, you know. Like, she's behind all the sales. She's great with relationships. I'm good with the operations. I don't necessarily like to be seen or heard, you know, but so that's what we complement each other really well. The bad part is all we talk about is work, you know, from the time we get up till the time we go to bed. So we do have to be cognizant of like, hey, these are some boundaries we got to put in place. Like, cause obviously we have kids, we've got other priorities. Desert Plunge is not the only thing in life, right? But it's been really fun doing it with her. So I don't know what her take is on that. She might feel differently, but
yeah, I mean, I think it's caused us both to level up in ways that we weren't really, it wasn't necessary for us to before,
right.
Because, you know, this is our baby, right, that we're growing together. And so I think it's really cool how it has caused us to communicate in new ways and almost do like self-reflect in other ways and just figure out how to grow honestly with the company. I know that we were called to do this. It's like I just truly see how the pain was moved to a purpose, and so it is greater. Like we're growing along with the company, but we're opposites, and so it works so well. Like I'm really passionate about it and marketing it and selling it, and Matt wants to get quality cold water to people and runs the business really well. So the way that we complement each other is like fantastic for running a company. It's just making sure that we're giving each other grace and assuming the best of each other at all times, especially when things get really hard. But it's been really awesome. It's been really hard at times. But overall, I'm super thankful for it. I'm excited for the future of the company too.
I am too.
Yeah.
And like, there's a reason you're sitting here of all the cold plunge companies, you know, because I've been so drawn to both of you, the quality of your product, which I experience daily. But just like the heart and the spirit that is really behind the brand. Because I think I look online and there's so many companies that are just spinning up these like biohacky products, and it's very clear, like energetically, I sense that they're just trying to like make money, you know, but for you guys, this is different. Like, this is a family business. This is quality products, distributing it at a price that like represents the soul of what this is. And I love it. I want to do some rapid fire questions on cold plunging, like top 5-10 questions that people often ask. First one would be like, how do I get started on cold plunging? Like, I don't have a plunge yet, but maybe I have a pool or maybe I have a shower. Like, how do I get started on cold plunging?
yeah, I mean, if you don't have a plunge yet, we always encourage people, hey, try a cold shower or try jumping your pool. in Arizona, that's hard to do. You wouldn't have access to that, but there's always wellness centers, right? That you can just try out for a month. That's how I think a lot of people start, is actually they're going to these recovery centers and they find that they really enjoy it, and they get a lot of benefits from it, but they are expensive. So they're like, the ROI, if you buy a cold plunge, pays for itself pretty quickly. So I think if you're interested in it, go jump in your pool, try a shower, go to recovery center. Those are some good ideas.
When is some ideal times to cold plunge? I know you mentioned you do it in the morning, but is there any no-nos, don't cold plunge here, or
Well, so I personally like to do it in the morning. Some people like to do it in the evening because it helps with their sleep. Midday, just for energy levels. So you kind of got to experiment with it and see what works best for you. There's some controversy around, okay, I just did a workout, don't cold plunge after a workout. I think that's important if you want to build lean muscle. You probably don't want to jump in a cold plunge right after you work out. Me personally, I don't really care that much about building muscle, so that hasn't been that important to me, but I think, power lifters, bodybuilders, stuff like that, they might want to be aware of that. I think it's great to jump in right after you go for a long run or something. I think you just got to see how your body feels and what works best for your schedule.
And just some of the science behind maybe not doing it directly after a strength training workout would be that exercise, particularly strength training, is inflammatory in a good way, in the sense that you have cellular signals of muscle damage and you have all the signals. It's hey, go repair. And cold plunge is anti-inflammatory and can restrict some blood flow temporarily and could squash a little bit of that signal. I think that's why other people say don't take big doses of antioxidants after you work out directly. Give a little bit of space and time. And I do personally follow that. I'll try to plunge an hour before a workout as I kind of warm up, and maybe not do it directly afterwards, but like you said, it doesn't need to be super rigid and militant. How cold should the water be, generally speaking?
As long as it's below 60 degrees, then you are going to get those physical effects that give us all these great benefits with cold plunging. We were saying earlier, for new plungers, I think mid-50s is great, because we want people to be willing to come back every day or a few days a week or however much to get into the cold plunge. If it's set too cold and then you're going to resist getting in, then that's too cold. But listening to your body and just, I think what I see a lot of times is people will start in the 50s or around 50, and then after they plunge for a while, their body starts to ask for more. And I think that's a really cool part of cold plunging, is just getting in your body and being aware of your body. We are so distracted today with screens and technology and phones. This is such a beautiful practice to just bring people back to themselves and then let their body tell them what temperature it wants.
And see the gains in that area too, of your body's ability to adapt to the cold stress, which means your circulation is improved, which means your regulation of your nervous system is improved. And I know after doing some time, you might be able to go 10, maybe even 15 degrees colder than you did once before. And obviously there's physiology that accompanies that. Super cool. So how many times per week? How often should people cold plunge in your opinion? I know there's a lot of different thinking on this.
Yeah, again, initially I felt like I needed it twice a day. That's what I needed in my life at the time. Today, I'd probably go 3-4 times a week. And I just know when I need it. I can feel it. There's some scientists out there. Like Andrew Huberman, he recommends an accumulative 11 minutes a week. I think shooting for 10 to 15 minutes a week is probably a good goal. So that's 3 minutes, four times a week, right? So shooting for that, I think, would be ideal.
And that's a cool point too. So it's a good analogy to exercise there. It would be more beneficial to do 5 3-minute sessions than it would to do 1 15-minute session. Because kind of like if you're hitting your chest, you could either split that volume up to 2-3 workouts and do 5 sets of chest spread throughout the week, or you could just do 20 sets of chest in one day. Each time you do it gives you a little stimulus. So I like this idea of gently spreading it out. That makes sense to me. Do you have any thoughts on any of this, Brie?
Well, the only thing that came to my mind when Matt was talking about that is spreading it out is I think people do need to be mindful of getting in a group setting and plunging, especially for the first time, and to just really be aware that it is a personal practice, because I've seen people kind of try to one up each other on the amount of time, and we're totally missing the point of why we're cold plunging. It's and I think it can also just be a little bit destructive because it's removing you from just being in tune with your own body and getting the benefits from plunging, So if your friend goes for 4 minutes and you're wanting to do 2 or 3 minutes, then do the 2 or 3 minutes. It brings a different element into it that I don't think should be part of a cold plunge practice.
Totally agree. We could get rid of the competition aspect. Yeah. At the same time, the social aspect of plunging, if you have like close friends and family, can be very powerful. I know at our Fit Father and Fit Mother retreats, we do this whole like morning experiences where people can hop in the cold plunge. And it is so amazing to see someone like step into something they're really scared of and have like 10 people around, like, you can do this, you can do this. And you get to see the hero's journey that is our lives happen in real time in 3 minutes. I can't do this. Oh, maybe I can do this. Oh shit, I'm doing this. You're doing this. And we all get to celebrate that. It's like, it's really emotional and powerful to see that trajectory.
Yeah, and I was part of it at the Fit Mother Project.
Yes, you were.
That was, and so when people are around in a spirit of just support and celebration and just being present, it is really amazing what can happen. And that was definitely an experience that will leave a lifelong impression on me.
Good.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you get out of a cold plunge? So I just plunged and I get out and I'm feeling like I did it. Now what?
Yeah, some good things. I mean, I guess some don'ts really. Try not to warm up with hot water afterwards. But what you can do, get out, do some squats, do some push-ups, go stand in the sun, soak up that vitamin D, deep breaths. Just warm your body back up naturally and let your body do that. So those are some things I do.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Just like the idea of your body, you want your body to continue to do its natural work to rise your core temperature, and that's part of the adaptation process. It's kind of like the same reason of not like squashing that inflammation after exercise. It's like after cold plunge, let your body do its thing as opposed to just warming yourself up, externally through hot water. But contrast hydrotherapy is something you're pretty passionate about, Brie, the idea of like going back and forth between cold and hot. So when you've done that, what's your protocol? How have you approached that? Like, and what do you feel like when you do that kind of experience?
I mean, it's going from the hot tub to the cold plunge, the hot tub to the cold plunge. And what has made the biggest impact on me is watching our son, who has struggled with headaches, just being willing to do cold water and hot water and watching that be to bring such a relief, but always ending on cold, so that we're still receiving those, the benefits of the cold water. And also I do think touching on grounding, because most of the time people are outside when they're cold plunging, and grounding is so important. So it's a great time, since you already have the time set aside, to have your feet in the grass, on the earth, having your eyes in the sunlight, looking at the sun. Those are all really important elements of just being a human being. So it's a great time to combine all of those.
Yeah, and I'd say even like all those elements, for sure, habit stacked, and like family time. I know for me, when I cold plunge, my daughter's out there with me. Yeah. She's running around the yard yelling, like she's saying, "Good job, Daddy, you can do it." And then we get out and like, I had these little spinny poi balls, or like the little balls on ropes, and we like play with those afterwards. So it's like, it's fun. And that whole process is like 10 minutes, but it's so nourishing on so many levels. Absolutely love it. All right, so from a consumer standpoint, I'm looking out into the market, and now that I watched a podcast on cold plunging, I'm gonna get Facebook ads till the end of time about cold plunges and different companies and products and price ranges. So talk to us from a consumer standpoint about like the range of stuff on the market, where Desert Plunge really excels in all this, and just help us understand like different options for people who are excited to actually invest in a cold plunge.
Yeah, so it can be really overwhelming, and there are some great products out there. We are really passionate about our design because we've been super thoughtful about every single part of it. Even just with the size of our chiller, a lot of people say, okay, here's a 1 horsepower chiller, a 3/4 horsepower chiller. Bigger isn't always better. You don't need anything bigger because of our insulation, but it's just you're gonna get to plug it right into a 110 volt outlet, just a standard plug. It's only gonna draw 6.5 amps, so your utility bill isn't going up a huge amount every month. The other thing is, a lot of times you'll see all-in-one chillers being advertised, and
what does that mean?
So an all-in, like a lot of times an inflatable cold plunge will come with a metal chiller. I think you have had one of those
yes,
too, where the pump and the filter are all in the box with the cooling unit.
Yes.
The problem with that is people will spend $45 or $55, however much that costs, but when something in that chiller breaks, the customer's having to spend hundreds of dollars to send that chiller back, and they're completely out of cold plunge.
That happened to me.
Right.
Yeah.
And people just don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And so with our design, our pump and our chiller and our filter, they're all separate of each other. They're independent of each other. So if something happens and somebody accidentally breaks their pump, we're overnighting them a pump. Their water is still cold because of the insulation, and they're still cold plunging. And because of the reason we got into this business, people's cold plunge practice is really important to us. We take people's cold plunge practices really serious. And so there's just so much more behind that, that goes into our design. We can get people cold plunging quickly, affordably, and we can help them maintain their practice throughout the life of owning our cold plunge. But for $3,000 versus 10 or 12 or so there's the other thing is it's childproof. A mom can padlock their cold plunge and know that it's going to be safe. That's also really important. Sitting in the fact that we have a chiller and a pump and our water is circulating, then people aren't going to build that the thermal barrier around it. So depending on where you sit in our cold plunge, it can be a more intense or a less intense, experience. There are some cold plunges that can create ice. Ours doesn't do that. For people that want to maybe get our plunge and they might want to be able to be in 30-degree water, it's not super common. A lot of people find that 39 is, because that's the coldest our chillers go, is too cold. Most people don't keep it at 39. In the 40s is great for most people. But if somebody wanted colder, we have people that we can point them to.
And I'll say the same, I want to reflect on a couple of those things. One, my foray into owning a cold plunge was an inflatable one with an all-in-one unit that we got from China. And it was good until it broke, and there was a series of maintenance issues, not great. I've had Desert Plunge for over a year now, haven't had a single maintenance issue. I'm pretty sure that thing will never have a problem. It's just so freaking rock solid, and that's great. The size of the tub is phenomenal. It's big, it's spacious for basically everyone. And the water is clean and pure. I replaced the filter less than you guys would probably advise, but it's still good. It's crystal clear, perfect water. I have ozone sterilization in that as well. And it's just it's awesome. I love it. I used to set mine at 39 too, just because I thought it was cool to be in the 30s. I don't anymore. 42 to 45. Chilling, happy. And I think if you want ice on it, it's for people who want to have a really cool Instagram social media clip that shows you're doing the ice, but it doesn't matter at all.
Exactly. And I think too, it's just super easy. Your lid, you lift it, it props. You're not having to unclip it, put something on the ground. It's color fast, so nothing is fading in the sun. I mean, it's just, it is truly, we're just so proud of it for so many reasons, and we're really excited about it, so. Yeah,
and I obviously am too. I use it every day. And I think the further down you go in your health journey, you get your fuel nailed, you get your movement nailed, your sleep nailed, and have good habits there. Plunging is one of the things that can take you to the next level in a noticeable bump. I noticed when I started plunging, my health, fitness, performance, especially cognitively, but also recovery, improved.
And without that element, cold is a very particular stimulus. And so it's massively valuable. And I think when you cold plunge, Matt, as you said, you get the discipline, and it makes me more likely to actually want to go hop in a sauna or get my sunshine. Yeah. So it's this really nice connected practice.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch back on contrast therapy again because it's pretty powerful. So we did this workshop back this summer, and we just found a little more information about contrast therapy. So heat and cold are very similar. Extreme heat does the same thing as extreme cold, but when you combine the two, going from hot to cold, it's even more beneficial. So that's been pretty cool, and kind of a new discovery.
Run us through a protocol of contrast. Like, what would one do if they had access to a hot body of water, say a spa, and they also have a cold plunge?
Yeah, either spa or sauna. You want to heat your core body temperature up, so you're staying in a sauna for 20 minutes. If you're in hot water, your core temperature heats up a lot quicker, so maybe 10 minutes in a spa. And then I give myself a few minutes in between, get out of the hot, give myself a few minutes, then jump in the cold water, 3 to 4 minutes. And you can do a few rounds of that, or you can just do one round, end on that, but always end on cold. So
yeah, it's really that simple. And I'll say this, for a long life, you want great circulation. You want great circulation, oxygen, nutrient-rich blood. And what this does is vasodilates constricts. So you see this pumping action. It gets all those cells to exchange nutrients. It moves your lymphatic vessels, all those interstitial fluids that your immune system moves in. So it's just pumping the fluid of life, and it's such a wonderful thing. Yeah. Love it. I want to thank you both for the work that you do, and I kind of want to end on a question of paint us a vision that you hold for the world. When more people start cold plunging, let's say a third of families in the United States have access to cold water that they're using regularly. Okay, what do you think changes in our culture and in families?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. What I would hope would change I think we're creatures of habit, and we seek comfort, and we are so uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think our ancestors, it was natural to be uncomfortable.
Yes.
And we were designed to be uncomfortable, and we are way too comfortable as a society today. So my hope would be people get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable. What changes happen from that, I'm not entirely sure, but I can only think it will benefit everybody. The changes for me, I talked about a little bit about them, the mental health, the discipline, just the energy you get. I think we'll just be a more forgiving, friendly society if everybody can start doing that. I think it'd be pretty cool.
And you agree?
I just see connection. If we have more people cold plunging, we're going to have people connecting more to self and then to each other. And I think that a lot of pain in the world is just because of disconnection. So I see improved health. Mental health is such a big issue, especially with youth and with adults. But if we can have parents cold plunging and then showing their kids how to cold plunge, I'm just seeing what I've watched it do for my husband. If we can see that pass on to our teenagers and our, you know what I mean? Just the mental health crisis in this country is really sad. So I just want to see a complete flip to that script and just see people becoming more empowered and less able to be controlled and less distracted. And I see just people taking more responsibility for their health overall, as far as what they consume by food and by media and all of those things. I just see it as being a ripple effect.
I totally agree. Yeah. I almost find it impossible to imagine someone getting out of a cold plunge and then wanting to go eat a piece of fried pizza or some shit like that. It's exactly. It makes no sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a powerful statement you make when you get into cold water intentionally. It's this is going to benefit my health. I am looking to get stronger on all levels, and that translates. And then just imagine if we had kids in schools,
And you see these kids like getting into cold water, thinking they can do hard things and like getting out and they're revitalized, they're cheering each other on. Holy crap. Just cold water. Just cold water. So simple, so beautiful, and now accessible. So thank you both for the work you do. And if anyone's interested in getting a cold plunge, Desert Plunge. This is where you need to look. Hands down, go there, desertplunge.com. We have our promo code FITFAMILY. That gives you a great discount on this plunge, and you can get our signature plunge as well. And so check that out. I highly recommend it. I'm creating a lot of content around this because I truly believe in it. It can help you and your family. And take some actions for this today. Like at the very least, end your next shower on cold. If you have a pool, get in the water there. If you have a friend who has a cold plunge or they have a pool, like just get into cold water from this. You'll start to see the benefits yourself. It's immediate, it's powerful, and thank you both again for this conversation today. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Fit Father Project podcast. If you love what you heard, please rate and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts. It really helps spread this show to more men who need this valuable info. To watch full video episodes of this podcast and other motivational videos to inspire your training and more, visit our Fit Father Project YouTube channel. It's free and everything's made for busy guys over 40 like you. Visit youtube.com/Fit Father Project to get access to our entire video library. And finally, if you or someone in your life is interested in becoming a fit father or needs help losing weight, building muscle, and living healthier after age 40, then visit fitfatherproject.com where you can see our proven programs, supplement line for guys 40 plus, and free meal plan and workouts to get you started. This is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi signing off. I'll see you in the next episode.